What's up, guys? So welcome today on the podcast. Today we have Paul Ardila, but the correct way to say it, which for some reason is hard for my Kentucky tongue, is Paul Ardila. Ardila. There's like that rolling R.
I think you got
that
it.
rolling R from from a Spanish.
I was holding my breath,
that.
hoping you would get it right, and I think you did.
Earlier we had to re-record this. I was saying Paul Ardila. I was like, damn it, I couldn't get it. Paul Ardila. So, but you can say Ardila if you want to. Yeah, so that's that. He was a guy at the ADCC trials. He won the West Coast trials, and I was watching him, and he went against some tough dudes like Elder Cruz, and there's other guy that Mario Gonzalez, some other tough dudes, and he was just killing people. I mean, just great guard work. And so I was like, man, who is this dude? I want to find out more about him. Come to find out, as we'll talk about in a little bit, he's a good wrestler too. And you would have never thought wrestling from his game that he played. And again, he talks about why he made that transition from being like a really focused top player wrestler type that didn't want anything to do with the guard to playing a bottom game and diving full force into that and becoming like a submission, like a really, really submission person, like a really, like a submission focused person, a person with a very high rate of finishes with his submissions.
Yeah, and heavy, like he had a lot of leg lock finishes.
A lot of leg lock finishes. And so it's a fun episode. Also, just in case some of you guys are sensitive to such things, there are some cuss words here. I think Paul might have
some. Paul holds probably the world record. He is, I think, surpassed Kurt Osiander for the most. We didn't count them, so if somebody wants to count them out there.
If someone wants to go and do that, you can let us know. But I think Paul said the most F-bombs. Again, it doesn't bother me. It's like basically just having a conversation with your buddy.
Yeah.
And he's funny as can be.
Yeah, he's great.
He's a crazy dude. He's cool. But again, interesting conversation. A lot of good tips for training. If you wrestled before, which I know a lot of you guys have from the messages I get, there'll be some cool tips from there because again, he's coming from a wrestling background into jiu-jitsu. And again, regardless, there is a really important part in the podcast that he gets to that is literally, this is a mental breakthrough that he talks about, that he had, that I had, that literally almost every black belt that I've talked to that's really sort of had like a really big breakthrough moment with their game and with their ability to compete and train and everything else. It's something that they all kind of come to. And so, again, you'll know it when you hear it. So, again, thank you for being here on the podcast with us, and hope you enjoy it. Big thanks to our sponsors that make this thing happen so that you guys get to listen to me and Eugene's soothing voice every Monday or whatever day you tend to listen to this. Our first sponsor, Charlotte's Web. They make CBD products. In case you didn't know, I'm sure you know if you listen to the podcast, but in case you didn't know, they make CBD products. And, again, they're one of the best CBD companies out there, in my opinion, because of the fact that they test everything that they do. So again, they third-party test all of their products, so you can ensure that the quality is there, the actual ingredients that they say is there are there, the dosages are correct. One of the things that I've read before that they've talked about, and that my friend who is also in the CBD business, who she works for a competing company, but I was asking her about the same thing, and she's like, yes, this is true, which is most CBD that you get out there, you have no idea what's in there. CBD can come in all shapes and sizes as far as the tinctures and stuff like that. The dosages can be all over the place. And then when you're actually taking it, when they tested this stuff, you weren't even getting like accurate readings or accurate dosages compared to what was on the label. On the label, it reminds me very much of some of the food. Like, this is one of the reasons, like, when I am dieting, I really have to eat mostly just food that I make, because like I watched this documentary. They went and found all these different restaurants and food items that were packaged and stuff like that, and they had to they were testing the calories, and it's a really kind of a crazy process. They put the food into this machine and it basically breaks it down, and they were able to test the fat, the calories, the protein, this carbs, and everything else, and they found that like a lot of stuff is grossly underestimated. So like you might read on the label that it's like says it's only this many calories, but that burger you got from the store is actually probably like a good deal higher than that. And again, that's important. That's a big deal, because again, if you're like expecting that you're going to get X amount of grams of protein or carbs or whatever, or as so many calories if you're counting them, it's a big deal. And so it's the same thing with the CBD products and any supplement you're using. It's one of the reasons why I don't use a lot of supplements that have proprietary blends, because of the fact that they can shuffle whatever they want to in there. It's like you don't know what's in there. Unless it's like specifically laid out. And so again, if you guys are interested in CBD, again, I know most people have kind of heard about it. I personally thought it was snake oil the first time that I heard about it until I used it. And when I used it, it's amazing. And so I like sharing a really good, reputable company with you guys that I can ensure is going to be good quality. So if CBD is going to work for you, their stuff's going to be amazing. I personally use it when I go to sleep at night, about 30 minutes to an hour before bed. Helps me out in a big way as far as my whole recovery from training and everything else. And so again, if you want to check it out, I encourage you to try it out for a month and see what kind of effect you have has on you. You can do that by going to charlottesweb.com. The promo code is Jujitsu20 to save 20% on the order. So again, that's Jujitsu20. Our old code was Jujitsu. The new one's Jujitsu20. Also, thanks to our sponsor, Matt at Epic Roll. Epic Roll is a jiu-jitsu company made by a Jiu-Jitsu Black Belt for jiu-jitsu people. Again, doesn't sound like a big deal to you, but for one of the things that happens with like the podcast and with the YouTube channel and with everything else that I do is, and hell, you might get this too. You listening to this because you're involved in jiu-jitsu, you might get the messages from like Pakistan and stuff like that in person saying, "Hey man, do you want to order these products?"
That's not how it works. That's not it. Hello, sir or madam.
Hello, sir or madam. Yeah, that one.
We make fine product. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I get those plus a lot of other stuff. And in some cases, some of these companies that are like saying, hey, we want to like sell something with you or whatever, some of them aren't even made by jiu-jitsu people. I got bamboozled by one of them because there was one product. I'm not going to talk about what it is. There was one product that I like sort of talked about in one of my videos or whatever that then come to find out like this person bamboozled me. This wasn't a jiu-jitsu person because like, anyway. So anyway, Matt he's a cool dude. He's a Jiu-Jitsu Black Belt. He makes really cool gear. I love the designs that he has. He has, more elaborate stuff, but I really like the ones that he has that are very minimal, very clean. That's my style. That's the way that I like to do things. And again, he has a lot of cool stuff with that in mind. And again, I like the quality too. The quality of the stuff is great. This is the reason why earlier this past year, we did a small run of Jiu-Jitsu rash guard and shorts because I liked this stuff that much. I was like, I wanted to do my own version of it with him. And in case you've never worn them or tried them, I really love, and I've talked about it so many times, but I say it every time, I love his shorts. They're my favorite Nogi shorts. It's the ones I always wear.
Yep.
Because there's no Velcro. They're comfortable, like they don't slide off. It's great. It's very flexible, and I think they're great products. So again, if you want to check his stuff out, whether you're looking for gis, rash guards, shorts, t-shirts, whatever it might be, you can go to epicrollbjj.com. The promo code is Jiu-Jitsu, and you'll save 15% on the order. So again, that's Jiu-Jitsu for 15% off the order. Also, big thanks to our sponsor, Manscaped. They are the best in men's grooming. Originally, I think they started off as kind of like a below the belt thing where it was all about like trimming your balls and putting all these lotions and stuff like that on your balls. And then now they've got a bunch of really good products for pretty much everything from colognes to nose trimmers. Sadly, as you get older, nose trimmers become like an important thing. Like all the guys that have beards, you'll know what I'm talking about. You get that long nose here that comes out and then it connects to the top of your beard and it like starts tickling
your mustache.
Yeah, sorry. Well, it's part of the beard. I mean, the mustache. Like where does the beard end and the mustache starts?
Ooh, tricky question.
Is it at the lip here? Or?
I don't know.
But then if I just had this going down there, we would say that's a mustache if I trimmed everything else around it. So is this little strip here? Okay,
I believe it's that strip.
Important questions, but nonetheless. I really like their stuff. I think they make really high quality trimmers and really cool, or not cool, but really nice smelling and high quality lotions, balms, and colognes that I've used. And one of the things that's nice too about if this means anything to you, about the trimmer that they have is it's waterproof. It's also really quiet. Like the old trimmer that I had, like you turn that sucker on, it's going. The trimmer that they make. Like I use it for my beard and my balls.
Yep.
Use it for everything. I basically use it for them. Jess uses it for my back and everything else. Is the darn thing's not like, it's not super loud, super quiet relative to a trimmer, and it still gets the job done. It's not like I've used a trimmer that was like more quiet, but it was like couldn't trim the damn hair. It was like wasn't strong enough. It wasn't powerful enough. This one's powerful enough to get the job done, but it's nice and quiet. Which again can be a plus for some people. But again, if you want to check out any of their products, I've used a lot of their stuff and everything that I've used has been great. You can check them out at manscaped.com. The promo code is Jujitsu20 for 20% off the order and free shipping. It's a great deal. If you want to check out one of their particular packages that they have to get a good idea of what they do, they have a perfect package. I think they're at the 3.0 now. They might have a platinum package coming out.
Yeah, platinum package, which is like a lot of the lotions and the balms and like all their like good smelling stuff. I think they have shampoo now.
I haven't used
conditioner, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's good stuff though. It all smells nice.
And if you guys would like to support the podcast directly, you could do so by heading on over to Patreon by going to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. By joining, you'll get access to all the podcast extras that they have. We have basically every guest that we have, there's always a snippet of the conversation where we try to take out a decent tip that you could use for your jiu-jitsu.
In this episode, there's a lot to choose
from. There's
a
lot. We went off the rails after the
there's
podcast.
Some fun stuff. We'll talk about that. But Paul had a really good concept on how he goes about his training strategies. And like some things that are really useful for his jiu-jitsu, kind of his technique. So he talks about a really cool idea that he and I'm not gonna go into it anymore, that he does that really kind of helps him hone in on some really good new techniques or developing techniques. So I think it's a really useful tip and useful idea.
Yeah, so if you would like to learn the sort of the secrets to developing your techniques from a submission wizard who just won the ADCC trials, who's won the trials before.
I know, people forget about that.
It was really good, right? If you'd like to, again, if you haven't watched any of his matches, get on Flow or whatever you got available and go watch them. They're fun and they're fast, most of them. But again, if you'd like to learn how he sort of goes about his training process, which I think is instructive because he's got some good tips, especially if you're someone that doesn't like drilling or don't have time to drill, because you got to keep in mind this guy's a lawyer. Like he doesn't have time to go bang out like 3,000 reps like in the morning and then come back and training. Then head on over to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. You can join up, get access to that, as well as a ton of other stuff from the last 3 years we've had the thing going, which again, it's a great price for a lot of cool content. And guys, if you would like to join my Chew Crew email list, you can become a subscriber by going to jujitsu.net/join, JOIN. By joining, you'll get access to 3 free ebooks that I give away. One is on developing a jiu-jitsu game plan, the other is on drilling strategies, and the other one is going to be an at-home study guide with some drills that you can do at home. I originally made that ebook for people when we were going through the lockdowns and quarantines of Captain COVID, and again, I just added it to the little bundle that you get access to. After you've joined, you then get access to my email list where I send out a daily email, typically Monday through Friday, but sometimes on the weekend. And it comes with certain perks. You typically get better prices on all the products that I sell, both the physical products like gis, rash guards, shorts and stuff, whenever I come out with them. And you also get a better deal on the online products like my courses that I sell. And you get first dibs. Like, so at the time of recording this, we just released the Jujitsu Camp. And basically it's a camp that I'm doing at my place. So basically it's like literally me at my place where basically I get to share my gym in my house with people. We sold out in like 2 hours.
I went and checked the email. I checked it. So you sent it. I think I checked it maybe the next morning.
Yeah, it was gone.
And I was like, I'm going to click the link and just see, and it was gone. It sold out.
The email went out at 8 p.m. It was sold out by 11.
That's awesome.
I mean, which is great. I'm really excited.
It was a really good time last time too. It was really cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to do another one. So I'm going to rebatch it. I'm going to send out another email and see if we can do another one. So I have no idea at the time of listening to this, because I'm going to I'll start sending that out Monday. So at the time of listening to this, because this is going to go out Monday, if you're interested in that camp, the only place I'm going to start with it. If it makes it past the email, it may make it elsewhere, but otherwise I'm going to be offering it on the email. That's what I always do. They always get first crack at everything. And I imagine it's going to sell it quick, but I'm going to do another option in September. So I'm going to do another camp, because I was like, if that many people that close out that quick, and I had a bunch of emails asking if there were any more spots. So we'll do another one in September and see if we can fill that one up, because it's a cool time. You get to I don't know about you guys. Like, you guys are like, I like meeting people that have interacted with me through the videos and podcasts and everything else. And I don't know what you guys think, but if you've listened to the podcast a lot, you kind of know me and Eugene. Mm-hmm. You kind of do from listening to us talk so much. And so this is like a really cool thing where I keep the camp relatively small. I limit it to 20 people. And so you'll get to trade with me and my students, and we get to hang out more, and we'll be, depending on the weather and stuff like that, we'll be doing some cool breath work and meditation stuff, either at the gym or under the trees in my house. We'll do a cookout at the house. I've got a bunch of yard games at the house this time.
It's fun, man.
It's a fun time. It's a blast. So if you guys want to join us, join my email list at Jujitsu. Can't speak today. Let's get it together, Chewy. Jujitsu.net/join. You get the ebooks, you get the emails, and again, you can unsubscribe at any time, and I will stop sending you emails at any point that you do that. And guys, with that said, let's jump into this podcast with Paul. How's things going, bro?
Good, man. Just finished work, so I'm just kind of chilling. I already trained today too, so I have nothing else planned.
Done for the day.
Yeah. What's up with you guys?
You're looking at it. We're here with you.
Yeah.
I got my training in earlier.
I
and
did too.
had to do a little bit of work.
I got mine at 6 a.m. today. And you got yours at 10:30?
10, yeah.
Yeah. So what time did you train?
Noon.
Noon? Well, how does that so you're a lawyer full time?
Lawyer full time. Yep.
So do you kind of make your own schedule, or is it like, so how do you kind of incorporate? It's just interesting. And a lot of people work full time, and you're a high level competitor and you also work full time. So how does like your scheduling work?
Yeah, I mean, I think Monday through Thursday, it's pretty easy because I don't train until 7 p.m. So I work until about 6:30, and then I just go train, or I go to training and then train until about 9:15ish, and then come back home, eat, go to sleep, and just repeat. And then on Fridays, I just take my lunch break. Although, like, being an attorney, you don't really have a scheduled lunch break. It's not like I'm clocking in and out. I'm not punching the punch card or whatever. But yeah, just like, I mean, I can decide to take a lunch break whenever I want, and I just go train instead of like having your usual lunch break where you just kind of fuck around. Oh, can I curse, by the way?
Yeah, you can curse.
All right, cool. I just wasn't sure, man. But yeah, like instead of just like having a lunch and I don't know, hopping on my phone or whatever, I just go train.
What kind of law do you practice?
I do personal injury.
Okay.
That's good. That works, right?
My wife, she works for I guess she does like the paralegal stuff for a personal injury attorney. Yeah, well, and I don't know about you, but like with the attorney that she works for, he gets to live a pretty good lifestyle as far as his schedule. It's like he can, like I have several friends that are lawyers and they practice different law, and some of them, like, man, they're working hard, like long hours, tons of time, and they don't really get a lot of time to do the other stuff that they want to do. Whereas, like you said, like the guy that that she works for, a personal injury guy, I mean, he runs like. He does like races and stuff and runs and does ultra marathons and everything else, and he has a very good quality of life as well as his work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good quality of life, although I'm not going out and partying every single weekend or anything like that. But I mean, I have time to train jiu-jitsu, which is several hours a day, and
sure, I
don't feel like I'm super stressed or anything. But I mean, I do work every single day, like Monday through Monday. I'm working, so I guess I don't know. I guess you have the good and the bad, but yeah, I don't have like I said, I don't have a schedule. Like no one's telling me like, hey, you have to be here at this time, and you got to be done by this time. Make sure you clock in and out, sort of thing.
Yeah. Now you're originally from Colombia, right?
Yeah. I was born in Colombia, and I moved here when I was 9.
What brought you guys to the States?
We were political refugees.
Okay.
Colombia. Yeah. So my mom was an attorney in Colombia, and she was a federal prosecutor. Several of my family members were prosecutors, and I mean, I'm sure you guys know, but like during Colombia, like in Colombia during those times, during the 90s and stuff, it wasn't like you had to be a little fucking crazy to be a prosecutor. When, I mean, if you try to put anyone in jail or prison or whatever for anything to do with drugs or anything related to it, I mean, you were gonna receive death threats. Like it wasn't even maybe I will, maybe I won't. No, like it was almost a certainty at that point. But anyway, so that's what my mom did and several other family members, and it was just a matter of time until that happened to us.
Wow, that's impressive. So like, did she do it for like just for her moral compass? Like she wanted to make things better, and so just was willing to stick her neck out there to do that?
Well, I don't know. I guess I haven't asked her that question, but she knew that she wanted to be a prosecutor since she was 13. My mom did.
Wow.
I guess I don't really know. I haven't asked her like why she still did it, even facing the, I guess, political or more like, I don't know what to call it, like socio whatever drugs and all this shit that was happening around that time. Like why she still chose to, keep on doing that career, because I'm sure she could have chosen to, I don't know, I guess go private, civil, or whatever, and she was like, "Fuck that! I'm gonna do what I have to do." But yeah, I think she's also just very passionate about what she was doing, and she was like, "I'm gonna do it regardless of whatever."
Yeah, what was life like for you kind of growing up in Colombia? I grew up in Russia and I came here when I was 6 years old. So I understand kind of you're really uprooting your life, totally different culture and way of life. Kind of what was it like for you growing up? What kind of things did you do? And then kind of coming to the States, how did you adapt to everything, to the changes?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Colombia for me, like, well, I'll just put it this way. I think one of the biggest differences in Colombian culture versus American culture is like we are very much a like society based culture, while here you have a more individualistic approach. For example, everyone in Colombia knows each other. Like in school, we were all friends. Like the whole school, I remember that. Like we were all friends. Like it wasn't like oh, this is my friend group and this is your friend group and this is your what, right? Which is what I experienced when I first came here. No, I was friends with everyone. Like if anyone had a birthday party, you had the whole fucking class going. Like it was mayhem, right? Yeah, I mean, it was pretty normal in that aspect. Had a lot of friends. I used to play soccer a lot in Colombia and was like fucking obsessed with soccer. Like I loved soccer when I was a little kid. I'm sure maybe you in Russia, it's very common.
I didn't start playing actually. I didn't start playing soccer until I came to the States, but that's what I was drawn to when I came. Before I did jiu-jitsu, I was playing soccer. That's why, high school and that was kind of my main thing before jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, same here. Yeah, I loved playing soccer when I was in Colombia, and I was actually really good. But then I moved here, at least in Georgia, which is where I live. In the 2000, like, I mean, it just wasn't that popular. And
right.
I started playing it with like kids at school, and they were kind of trash. It made me not want to play anymore. I'm kind of done with that. So, but yeah, man, I moved here, and then I think that was the biggest cultural impact for me, which is why I told my dad. I was like, yo, man, I fucking hate it here, man. People here are like, they're not friendly like they were like they are in Colombia. Like I want to go back, and he was like, nah, we're not going back. So you better just kind of deal with it. So then I dealt with it, I guess.
Yeah.
And you get used to it, but like I would say, like even though in the U.S. there's a more individualistic approach to like society, you just kind of like, hey, you're doing your own thing and you deal with it and whatever. Like it has this constant sense like maybe you're not as friendly as people in other cultures, but people also don't meddle in your shit as much as they do in Colombia. Because in Colombia, like whatever you got going on, they're gonna know about it. Like everyone's gonna know about it. They're gonna want to ask about it. And if you don't let people know, then you're kind of the asshole yourself. You know what I'm saying? Which I don't particularly like because I like to kind of keep to myself a lot of times.
So what do you
think in this podcast where I'm telling everything?
Yeah, right. What do you think? Like, where do you think what causes that difference with that communal existence there in Colombia versus here? Do you think it's just like sort of a societal idea where we have like our little separate communities within a greater community, or do you think it's something else? Do you have an idea?
I mean, I can't say for sure because I mean, I think it's such a hard concept to grasp. But I think it's just because the U.S. is a developed country while Colombia isn't. So if you want to get things done, a lot of the times, while here you can generally mostly depend on yourself, right? And maybe those like really close around you to get things done. Over there, like you grow up with the idea that if you really want to be able to accomplish things, you need to learn how to depend on those around you. I mean, it's just the way it is, man. Like it's not a fully developed country, and yeah, I mean, I like it. It's hard living, but it makes it a little easier if you're able to count on everyone else. Like for example, when my grandma came to visit me, it's just common practice. Like, hey, I'm gonna be out of town. Do you mind just making sure that my apartment doesn't get fucking broken into, right? Like those things don't really exist here. Like, I mean, do people sometimes have? Yeah, but it's not like everyone is thinking of it. Like, I'm going on vacation. I gotta make sure I get someone to look at my house to make sure it doesn't get broken into. You know what I mean?
It's interesting. It reminds me of like a difference. Like when I was younger, I grew up pretty poor for obviously first world American standards, right? Like it's different. but very much like that similar thing where like everybody in that community wherever I lived, everybody kind of knew each other. You could walk across over to the house because you needed something. Like sometimes there'd be like, hey, I need a cup of sugar or something from the neighbor, or like when we would leave or something like that, the neighbors would look after the house and make sure everything was okay.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you move into like a higher sort of tax bracket, I feel like there's less of that because everybody's got what they need. You still might be friendly with everyone and have a little community that you're a part of, but there's less of a reliance on one another or less of a necessity to rely on one another for things that you need.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And it actually might support my hypothesis of why, I mean, Colombia as a whole is like that. I mean, I guess the upper brackets are probably, I mean, the upper brackets of Colombia, I'm sure they have a lot of money, but the middle class is pretty much like the, poorer class here. So you just kind of, there's just more dependency on each other than maybe here in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot more, I feel like more of community. I mean, that people don't, it just is like Russian culture, I think, is like people do kind of meddle in their own, but everybody kind of knows everybody, like you kind of, so-and-so watches your kids, or it like you couldn't just get babysitters. Like it's really like, and like our whole family lived together too. I remember it was like, grandparents live with parents and with kids and all that stuff. Everybody kind of lived together, so it's almost like just a different like community. A lot of times people are here like people are separated, but there everybody's more like a community. And so I think it's kind of like a cultural thing. And I think when you're talking about Chewy, like everybody kind of borrowed and shared and kind of almost like you depended on each other because you didn't have any other options.
Yeah, well, Tristan Juncker, there's a book called Tribes, and he talks about that idea, and he said that, like, because at one point he's like living in this big fat house and he's separated from everyone else, and then he said he actually, I guess, later on moved to like a smaller apartment where it's kind of more because you're around people all the time and you can't help but be communal because they're there. So it's interesting.
So coming to the States, you started playing soccer a little bit. Obviously wasn't that popular, wasn't that interesting to you. So you kind of started wrestling. You kind of found your way into wrestling, right? And what was that process like?
Oh, that took a while. Yeah, because I moved here and I didn't start wrestling until high school. I guess it's not really a while when I look back at it from 31 years old now. It's only a couple of years, but I came. I mean, I think mostly I wasn't playing soccer, and I just played like football on the streets with my friends and stuff like that. And I tried out for the football team as a freshman, and I was a whopping 5'4", 130 pounds.
I mean, you were tiny.
Yeah.
How big are you now?
I'm 6'1" and like 205.
Damn, you had a hell of a growth spurt in high school, bro.
Well, just so freshman year, I was 5'4", 130. At the very end of my freshman year of high school. At the beginning of my sophomore year, I was 5'10" and like 160, 170 or something like that. So
Jesus.
Yeah, that was weird, but it was good. It was good because I needed that. I needed that confidence boost around that.
Well, so I want to ask you, how did you get into wrestling? Because like when I think of all the sports that are super popular in America, like obviously depending on the state you go to, some places like really are big into wrestling, but a lot of times it's like football, basketball, baseball sports, right? So what attracted you to get into wrestling?
Yeah, so I tried out for the football team. And apart from playing like football with my friends on the street, I didn't know anything. So I'm trying out for the team. I'm already tiny as can be. And people were like, yeah, so you got to get on, the wing position, just get on the end and do the wing position. I was like, yo, what are you talking about, man? I don't know what the fuck that means, right? So they're like, okay, great. Now go ahead and get on the back of the line and then just kind of wait. And then eventually we'll give you some playing time. Because I just didn't know anything. So the season ended and I was like, man, fuck, what am I going to do now? Well, soccer doesn't start until a little later. I don't know, man. Let me go ahead and try out this wrestling thing. That's straight up just how it went, especially because the year before, I was making fun of one of my friends who used to wrestle. Just like your typical messing around. I was like, yo, you straight up, you wrestling with dudes right now? Like,
yeah.
You out here wrestling with dudes? Man, I don't know. It seems kind of sus to me. And then the next year I was like, man, fuck it. I guess I tried this wrestling thing. And yeah, I mean, went to my first practice, and I'm not even kidding. My first practice ever, I was like completely in love with the sport. like completely in love with it. Especially if you want me to tell the story, because I can go more into detail. So you got to remember the size thing, right? So 5'4", 130. So like I didn't have a lot of muscle or a lot of anything, I guess, at that point. And I go into my first practice, and it was myself, one of the strongest kids in our grade of our freshman year. His name was Giannis, and then a varsity wrestler named Alex Jenkins. Okay, and in wrestling, I'm not sure if you guys wrestle, but in wrestling, one of the like very important aspect to it is like mental fortitude. So, for example, like in Jiu-Jitsu or maybe, I don't know, different sports where, let's say you do like a 3-man group and the loser comes out and the winner stays in, right? Over there it was, hey, the loser will stay in and the winners get to take a break. So it was like, hey, we're going to celebrate you being good or being better by, here's your break. If you want a break, you better earn it by winning. Whatever little, movements we were doing. So at that point, because it was our first training, I guess they were just trying to see what our level was. So we were just doing takedowns, right? So varsity wrestler, strongest kid in our grade, and 5'4", 130-pound me. And we were doing takedowns. Anyway, so both of them were just straight whooping on me, just straight murking. And I was like, fuck. I knew wrestling was sus. I knew it. This shit sucks, right? And then Alex, what the fuck is his name? I just said his name. Something Jenkins. Alex Jenkins? Yeah, Alex Jenkins. Yeah. He comes to me and he goes, look, man, next time, because it was, so let me tell you real quick what Giannis's strategy was. Giannis' strategy was, hey, man, I'm just going to be strong as fuck. I'm going to run to this kid, bear hug him, fall, and at the very end, I'm going to turn, right? That's how he was taking me down every single time. So Alex was like, hey, man, next time he comes to you, next time he rushes you, I want you to just drop to your knees and open your arms, right? And I was like, drop to my knees, open my arms, this shit. My man, you want me to get trampled? Like, that's what you want me to do. You want me to get trampled, right? And he was like, just trust me. Just trust me, all right? Next time he comes to you, just drop to your knees and open your arms. So here we go. Both of us go in, right? And then this motherfucker rushes me again. And I'm like, fuck. So I close my eyes and I drop to my knees and open my arms. And of course, he runs straight into my arms. And the second I feel his legs, I just grip. I grip as hard as I could, right? And he starts like stepping backwards and he falls. And that shit worked. And then I was like, this sport is the best thing I've ever seen. I took down the strongest kid in our year. That's it. I was like in love with it. And I fucking trained like a maniac. I couldn't have enough wrestling. From that day, like I would skip school and do all the stuff just to be able to train more. Like the coach gave me a key to the gym, and every opportunity I'm like, hey man, you wanna skip class? You wanna go train? Like, you wanna go wrestle? You wanna go? It was like that sort of thing.
With wrestling, like in Kentucky now, for instance, because I wrestled in high school, but back when I wrestled, there weren't a whole lot of programs to do like during the off season. Yeah. Now, like they've got programs all the time where if you want to wrestle, you can pretty much wrestle year round. Because I remember I was like you, as soon as I got into wrestling, I was like, yeah, this is it. I want to do this. And then, but unfortunately, when season was over, I would sit around and be depressed because I couldn't wrestle. Did they have wrestling programs like off season as well for you, or did you just have to wait till the next year?
I mean, not officially. So all we had was the like regular folk season, and then after that, I can't remember like how I found like certain schools that would do like summer camps or like there were clubs, and very much like you, I grew up broke as fuck. Like I didn't have a penny to my name, so pretty much I was just like, hey man, hey, do you think you can sneak me in, man? Just like give me a week training. Like I was doing literally anything I could do. I would sign up for tournaments, wrestling tournaments in the summer, and then just like beg for rides. Like, hey man, please take me to this tournament, and I will get there without having to ride back. I'm not even fucking with. Like I would go to these tournaments, and then like only having a way there, and then once the tournament was finished, I would just be like, fuck, hey man, so where do you, just to a random person, like, where do you live? Oh, you live here? Damn, I live pretty close to there. Like, do you mind dropping me off? Like, I was just like trying to get around and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, no, our school only had the regular like wrestling season, and then I would just like sneak into, because there are like wrestling, I don't know what it's called, like wrestling academies outside of school
Mm-hmm.
that generally like someone will want to go, and then I'll be like, hey man, do you mind if I can you invite me? Can I be your guest? Can I go with you? Sort of thing. And then I still try to train as much as possible, even off season.
How did you do that first year? How did it go?
Man, as terrible as it can possibly get, I was fucking terrible. I'm not even gonna lie. So my freshman year, I was junior varsity, and man, I think I lost I lost my first match, won my second match, and then I think I lost like the next 6 or 7 matches in a row. It was just some embarrassing shit. And then, but I was like learning a lot, and I was having fun learning a lot until my dad picked me up from a tournament, and then he was like, "Hey man, how did you do?" And then I was like, "I lost." Shit, what you mean, man? It's same old, man.
Mm-hmm.
I go, I get my ass whooped, and I come back. You already know. And then he was like, "Look, man, I just don't understand why. I don't understand why you keep doing this if you're just gonna go and get your ass whooped." Straight up. And then I was like, fuck. First of all, I was pretty discouraged because it was like my dad telling me that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, yo, you know what? Man, I'm tired of losing, man. I'm not losing anymore. Like I'm gonna start winning from on. And then yeah, I think I kind of picked it up. I still lost a lot, don't get me wrong, but
Sure.
I started winning a lot more after that. Like I think I ended the season like with a 50-50, like as many wins as losses. And then it just I started like getting better every year after that.
Yeah, that first year of wrestling is usually pretty rough because there's such a steep learning curve because you're typically, there's no belts or anything. So you might be going up against a guy who's been wrestling since a kid or 4 years or whatever. Or you could be going up against another green person like you. So I remember like my high school, like if I was going up against someone who had wrestled like the same amount of time as me, it was okay. But then I remember like one match I went against a senior who was like ranked like in the top 5 in state, and he just bulldozed me. It was terrible, but it is what it is. You have to pay your lumps and like in jiu-jitsu and wrestling and everything else before you get better.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely took a lot of lumps.
How did you so like you said initially you kind of got discouraged, then you started getting better. So how did you end your career in wrestling? How did you do? Pretty well?
Yeah, so I ended up doing pretty well in high school. I think I got I got 5th my junior year in state, then I got 3rd my senior year in state, and then I did like a little freestyle and Greco, and I won state in both of those, like freestyle and Greco. I think I did some like national tournaments, but didn't place or anything like that. So I was I was pretty good for my state, but I wasn't like nationally ranked or anything. Actually, I think I might have been ranked at 1 year just because the kids in my weight class were also pretty good. So I think I snuck in there as well, thanks to them.
Mm.
Yeah.
So after high school, like was the plan always to go to college and do any type of wrestling, or what was kind of your game plan after you loved wrestling? It was kind of a big part of your high school life. What was the game plan, or what was like the trajectory moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wasn't necessarily like considering. Well, actually, no. My senior year, I was considering wrestling at several schools. I went to like a really small school, and then my first semester I got into a car accident to wrestle, and then yeah, that was kind of that with the whole like, hey, I'm gonna wrestle in college idea, and then that's how I got introduced into jiu-jitsu because my brother was like, hey man, come train jiu-jitsu. It'll be softer on your feet because I messed up my ankle pretty bad and then ended up messing up my hip too. But anyway, so I was kind of done with wrestling. Transfer schools, went to UGA, which I ended up where I went to. Pretty much I did my whole undergrad career there. And then eventually, like once I started training jiu-jitsu, started getting stronger, and I was like, yo, I really want to wrestle again. And then I ended up wrestling for UGA again.
So you were doing jiu-jitsu while you were kind of so jiu-jitsu actually sparked your desire to go back to wrestling.
Yeah, that's right.
So what did you think of jiu-jitsu when you first started, when you went with your brother? Were you like, this is okay, it's not the same?
Definitely. Because the thing is like wrestling was a love and like an obsession for me. I just couldn't have enough of it. And then at first, jujitsu was like a means to help like satisfy that like hunger that I had for wrestling. Um, but yeah, I mean, well, first of all, like you just like even if you love wrestling as much as you love wrestling, like there's no way that you don't take a jiu-jitsu practice and you get choked out and you're not like, fuck, damn, I'm not that badass as I thought. You know what I mean? Not as good as I thought. Like, damn, this shit. Okay, what is this? How do I do that? Right? Like, at the very least, it's gonna pique your interest because wrestling is just not complete. Like, it's not a complete form of grappling. It just isn't. And as much as I would have hoped it was back then, just because I loved wrestling so much, like even a couple practices in, you're like, okay, all right, this 170-pound kid keeps on fucking me up, man. What's going on here? How do I do that? How do I learn? But anyway, yeah. So I have a tendency to go on these weird rants every once in a while. So
I go on tangents too, bro. I'm following you.
But anyway, yeah. So go back to jiu-jitsu, and then jiu-jitsu. Then eventually, when I feel strong enough and like I feel healthy enough, I'm like, I'm gonna go back to wrestling. But I still loved wrestling more than jiu-jitsu at that point in time. But I couldn't take my mind off of jiu-jitsu because, like, even eventually when I did go back to wrestling practices, like, it doesn't hit the same anymore. You know what I mean? It's not the same drug that you were taking because now there's another one, and it's just a different form of. So wrestling to me, like a lot of it is, like you can dominate your opponent by like positions. Like, hey, I'm gonna hold you here, I'm gonna move you here, right? But like in jiu-jitsu, like it's just more than that. I haven't really put too much thought into like explaining what the two differences are. But I just know that like in wrestling you dominate someone, while in jiu-jitsu it's kind of like.
Is it that you think it's like here? I've thought about this too before because I a lot of similarities there with you with wrestling. When I got into jiu-jitsu, there's something about like the finality or the threat of like, I have you in a choke and I could kill you right now, just hold it forever, or I have your arm locked up and I could break this right over top. Whereas in wrestling, it's like I'm holding you down, and even when you got pinned, you'd be pissed off or whatever, but like it wasn't that bad. But like when someone has like your like a part of your body locked up, or even your just your person, your future person, because they could just shred something if they want to, there's a certain like, okay, you got me, like you really beat me, because like I have to do this, otherwise like I would be injured or hurt in a bad way.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, 100%. I think in wrestling, you like, even if you have someone in a pinning position, right? Like you dominate their will, because in order for you to pin them, they have to stop fucking bridging or wiggling around, right?
Right.
But in jiu-jitsu, like when you have someone in a rear naked choke, like, like, and I like the way you put it. Like, if you choose not to tap, like if you choose not to give me this, I could kill you if I wanted to, right? Or like, hey man, I have your arm and I feel it. It's right at that point. If you don't tap, well, I've never done it because I'm just not weird like that. But like, if you don't tap,
right.
I could pop this. I could crack it, right? But yeah, I mean, one is like more will based, while in the other one, it's just like you just know, like this is done, right?
That makes sense. Yeah, because like you could, like you said in wrestling, unless there's such a difference in technique, a lot of times you're breaking a person down mentally until they eventually give up. And this is why like cardio is such you have to be in good shape to wrestle, because you can't, you got to be able to have an engine. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, it could be like 2 seconds into the match and you can catch a guy. Like, I mean, like when you hit Elder Cruz with a heel hook, I mean, I'm sure he had plenty of energy and plenty of like cardio left for the match, but it didn't matter. He was caught. That's that, right? That's the end.
Yeah, like regardless of how much will he has left to be on that match, it's over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I like that you put some thought into it because I think it definitely helped express what I was trying to get. What I was trying to get out.
So here's a question I got for you. So going into your first jiu-jitsu practice, I'm sure you kind of knew what it was. Like, did you expect to go into your first jiu-jitsu practice and be pretty good? And, you know, how did that first jiu-jitsu session go for you, if you can remember it?
Yeah. So, no, I do remember it. I mean, in the least cocky way possible, you got to understand, like, I just finished high school.
Yeah.
Right. I think I took maybe like 2 L's that year to the state champion, right? He was nationally ranked, and you know, like I said, I rode his coattails a little bit, and that's how I got to be, I guess, in the rankings too as well. And then of course, like apart from him, we went to freestyle and Greco, and I did my thing. So I thought I was the shit, and I was also 18, right?
Yeah.
I was like, yo, I'm about to come in this bitch and wreck everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you guys have never seen a better teenager ever. And then, boom, here you go. And that was that, man. So, yeah, that was definitely my first practice.
Oh, that was mine too. I love it. Like the like excited high school wrestler kid going in there. Like that, I've seen that story happen so many times, and I was that way. I actually was like messaging my coach, like, this is, what is it, AOL Instant Messenger back in 2003. I was telling him, I was like, hey man, I'm gonna come in there, wrestled, whatever. I've watched videos. I think I'm probably like a blue belt. You know what I mean? I got in there, got wrecked by like the smallest dude in the mat. I was like, okay, like I gotta shut up and learn this stuff. But I was the same way. 18 years old and you're freaking stupid. You think you're a badass.
I was different. I was like, I was actually in graduate school.
You're a little older, yeah.
Yeah, I was 25, I think. And, you know, I never did anything like that. Like, I wrestled literally for like a week. I had the opposite thing. I was like, man, I want to play soccer. There's nothing really going on right now. It was like in the winter time. That's kind of what wrestling was. I went in, like, hurt my thumb, and I was like, forget this. I'm going back to soccer. I'm not practicing for 3 hours. I didn't have that. But I was always intrigued. And so when I came in, I was just like, I've seen this on TV. I just want to, you know, I was just trying to figure it out. You know, I wasn't very good, but I didn't expect to be good. I expected to be terrible. And so, like, I was just like, oh man, anytime I did a little something right, I felt pretty excited about it. But I can tell, like, because, you know, you're used to dominating people. You're like, man, I pick people up, take them down, throw them around, pin them. Like, and who's this little scrawny, you know, person in a gi or whatever? They're not gonna do nothing.
Yeah, man. And I mean, I think also wrestling kind of, and the coaches and the whole, I guess, like, sport culture, it does like they do try to get you to be very confident in yourself and your skills. Like, it's just kind of a thing. But also, one thing I forgot to say, apart from just getting choked, like, jiu-jitsu, especially like with the old school, you know, guys, they train a lot of takedowns. Yeah. And I think that was my most demoralizing moment, is when I went in there and we were doing takedowns, and I was like, my time to shine. Like, all right, look, maybe y'all choked me out in some weird shit. That's fine, whatever, right? But now I'm about to show you boys what's up. And then my coach, and I don't know if he remembers this, Jucal, Juan Cornedo, we were doing takedown goes or takedown lives or whatever. And this man kept on taking me down. And I was like, yo, what the? And I'm telling you, like, I mean, I was pretty good. I was already like 190, 195 around there. So I wasn't a small guy by any means. And this man was just taking me down, just quick, fast, sharp, double legs every time. And I was like, fuck this sport.
Well, he's good too.
He's one of the best.
Yeah. So how far did you take wrestling? You say wrestling in college. How'd your college wrestling go?
Yeah. So, I mean, we were NCAA, which is kind of like a transitionary division between, like, for example, when the school is going from D2 to D1 under NCAA, they have to do a year under NCAA, which is National Collegiate Wrestling Association. So it's a different association. But, yeah, man, I was pretty good. I was a national champ. I was an All-American, and then the following year I was a national champion. So
Nice.
yeah, did pretty well.
That's awesome. So after that, like, did you wrestle all the way through your undergrad in college?
No, I only wrestled 2 years in college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then once that was done, what was your plan? Did you decide, like, I'm just gonna go back to jiu-jitsu? Or, I mean, it's really not a path for wrestling. It's really I mean, there's the Olympics really and some other kind of big tournaments, but really not nothing else.
Yeah, no. I think at that point I already had in mind that I was going to do jiu-jitsu. Like I didn't even think about it twice. I didn't even think about like, hey, once I'm done, because so I found jiu-jitsu and I started training consistently in 2010, and then I wrestled 2012, 2013. I moved to Brazil to train jiu-jitsu, and of course, I mean, I was still in school and stuff, but like my main thought was, okay, I'm going to move there, learn more of the culture, the language, and train a lot of jiu-jitsu, which I did. I was training like a madman. I'm not even kidding. Like I feel like I couldn't have enough trainings. And then in 2014, I went and wrestled again, and that's when I won the national championship. And then once I graduated, I finished and graduated in 2014. I was like, all right, full-time jiu-jitsu now. Like like the wrestling bug that I needed to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like I didn't feel accomplished per se, but like I felt like, I'm satisfied. And now I can dedicate myself to really, I can't say I've mastered it, but like really getting good at jiu-jitsu, because I felt like I just wasn't that good back then.
So when you got into jiu-jitsu and you started training jiu-jitsu like with a focus on it, did you have trouble? Did you have like the curse of a wrestler where you had trouble like playing off your back and playing guard and things like that?
Hell yeah. Yeah, I don't think I don't really think I got good on bottom until like midway into my purple belt year.
Mm.
Maybe not even. I probably wasn't even good at it back then, but just my memory's playing tricks on me. Because I like at all my tournaments, I don't think I played guard at all until black belt, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there like a switch that flipped on at some point where you're like okay, I can play this guard stuff? Because at least for me, like when I initially got into jiu-jitsu, like I looked at being on your back like, because I wrestled and I was like, I don't want to be on my back. That's like weak. I don't want to be in that position. Even though I get submitted by guys all the time on the position, I was like, I don't want to play that. But was there, if at some point for you, was there like a mental switch or something that allowed you to sort of dive into the guard game a little bit more? Or was it just simply you got better at it over time?
I think both. So I mean, when I first started, I used to look at a lot of Marcelo Garcia YouTube videos,
Mm-hmm.
and like I try to simulate his butterfly guard a lot, because I felt like it was something that even as a wrestler, like it just kind of made sense. Like
Yeah.
they were here for a little bit. I'm gonna get an arm drag. I'm gonna get a leg. I'm gonna come on top, and then once I got on top, I'm gonna just smash, right? So I started developing a guard-esque game. I mean, I wasn't hunting submissions or anything like that from bottom. Like I wasn't going after it more than just getting a quick sweep and then staying on top. But then when I moved to Brazil, well, first of all, I wasn't training gi at all. Maybe like once or twice here and there. But when I moved to Brazil, everyone over there was training gi. I think they trained maybe no gi like 3 or 4 times that whole year I was there, just to like be like, there you go, man. You want to train no gi? You want to, there you go. But other than that, I was training gi. And the thing is like, because they train gi year round, their gi game is insane. So of course I try to pass. I don't even know how to break grips, right? I'm trying to figure that thing out, and they're just sweeping me. And once they swept me, it's not like I could use my wrestling scrambles to get out of it, because the grips could just hold me down. And yeah, I mean, once you're held down and you're defenseless, you're like, okay, I got to figure this out for real now, because like they're just they're fucking me up, man.
So did you start training? So when you were in Brazil, you trained primarily gi. So that was like a big probably adjustment period. Did you fall in love with the gi as well? Do you feel like it helped your no gi? How was that relationship for you?
I mean, I think both help each other a little bit, right? I don't know exactly how much, and I don't know to what extent, but like, well, I mean, first to your first question, yeah. When I went over there, I only trained gi, with the exception of like 4 or 5 times in a year. But I was training minimum twice every single day. It's like Sunday to Sunday, right? I'll wake up, maybe like around noon, hit my first training, and then go to school. And once I finish school, hit my other training. And if I woke up early enough, hit my first training, wait a little bit, hit my other training, go to school, and then hit my third training. And this is all gi. But yeah, I mean, because I was only doing gi, eventually I really started loving gi. And then when I moved back to the United States, I was like, man, no gi's kind of. I was like back before I wrestled, I was like, yo, no gi's kind of sus, man. Honestly, yo, you gotta take it. You're just gonna go out there in spandex. That's what you're gonna do. You know what I mean? But yeah, no. And then when I came back, it was actually kind of hard for me to get used to no gi again, because for a whole year, you know, you're just grabbing things and you get used to very quickly like having those grips. But now to your second question, yeah, I mean the scrambles in no gi rarely happen in gi. So if you're practicing no gi a lot, you get better at scrambles. But being really tight and strategic, I think mainly comes in gi more than no gi, because in no gi those scrambles, like a lot of times you don't have to be very strategic, because you know, like, yo, if I'm in a terrible position, I can just wild out and maybe I can get out, right? While in gi, I mean, you can try to wild out all you want, right? But very likely, if I just grip something really hard, I'm going to be able to hold on to you, and eventually I'm going to get a really good position. So I think having both of those things help each other out in those aspects. But it's not like if you train primarily gi, your no gi game is going to be off the charts.
Which one do you prefer? I mean, again, you might like both of them now, but which one do you prefer doing right now?
Oh, no gi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why?
I just think it's more exciting.
Okay.
And it's much easier for me personally. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but it's much easier for me to get a sub in no gi than in gi. And I can do crazier shit in no gi, and like if I miss the flying or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. It's fine, because like I said, I can just kind of scramble out of it. So because I have that in my mind, like it allows me to try more things, because if I fail, I'll be able to be fine. You know, mostly, generally at least.
Sure.
While in gi is like if I do one mistake and I have someone who's really strong on top of me, fucking, and that's the match.
Yeah, you can a lot of times make a mistake, and it's a little bit easier to either regain or retain your guard or something like that. Whereas in the gi, if someone gets past you, I mean, they can latch onto those grips and not move, and it's really, really tough to. I mean, obviously it can be done, but it's a lot tougher to deal with. Whereas I feel like there's a lot more movement involved with the no gi. And I don't know. You said you're 31. I'm 37 now, and as I've gotten older, for me, the gi takes, or the no gi takes, it's faster and there's more movement, but I don't get like banged up hands, and I feel like it's easier on my body because I don't have someone tugging on my collar, which pulls my neck all the time. So I can train a lot more no gi than I can gi and not get hurt. Even though I'm doing leg locks and everything else, it's just a little bit easier on the body. So here's a question I've got from you, from being like a fairly accomplished wrestler that's getting into jiu-jitsu. In a lot of your matches, I mean, you'll pull guard and you'll get guys in like leg locks and everything else. You know, in the trials and stuff like that, the matches that I saw you get, I mean, you were like pulling guard and heel hooking people, you know, and doing it really quickly. How do you decide, like, because obviously I'm sure you use your wrestling too, but what makes you decide on whether or not to be more of like go into it with a takedown game plan, or to go into it with more of a guard pulling game plan? Is that simply just depending on what you've been working, or is it like, do you kind of size up your opponent, say, well, this will probably work better on them versus this?
No, I'm pulling guard on everyone now.
Okay, why is that?
I think it's because like once I really started getting good in like jiu-jitsu, at least better than like the people I train with consistently, mm-hmm. I would always start on bottom, you know, because like if you play top and then, you know, you're just kind of smashing them, I feel like they have more of an opportunity on top to play their game and and figure things out, right? I don't know if that's with everyone, but at least that's how I feel. So, and especially me being like generally the bigger guy, you never want to be the bigger guy who refuses to play bottom, only plays fucking top. So I only started playing bottom, and then I started developing a pretty good game on bottom. Except in tournaments, I just wasn't doing it. So I was like, I would just go back to what I felt more comfortable with, which is being on top, right? And then one tournament, I was like, oh, you know what? Like, well, because I was playing on top, a lot of times like people would always try to fucking like wrestle me, and that was fine. And eventually, like, eventually I could win by a point or two or some shit like that. But I just felt like, one, I'm having boring ass matches, right? They're very strategic, but they're pretty boring. And two, the matches that I'm losing are like, it's always by like a referee decision or like an advantage or whatever, right? Like not a lot of points are happening, not a lot of excitement is happening. So I'm just gonna play guard and I'm gonna do jiu-jitsu. I'm gonna bring this into like jiu-jitsu as quickly as possible, and I'm gonna avoid having those like 1 or 2 point matches anymore. And kind of like I'm gonna Jorge Masvidal this whole thing. Right? Like I'm gonna try to get the sub as quickly as possible. And whatever he said regarding, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, I don't want to have these matches where I lose by referee decision. Let me go in here and try to sub this guy out and do my thing. And if I can't, if I still lose, right, then fuck it, man. Like, I actually went for it and it just didn't work out.
When did you make that adjustment? Like what was it, around like black belt, or was it a certain particular year or what?
No, it was black belt for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then did you notice like afterwards, all of a sudden, like your performances start doing this because you don't even give a damn anymore? You're just trying to attack someone?
Yeah. I think it was, the last ADCC, I went against Tractor from Marcelo Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
And he went and got second, and he beat me by a fucking penalty. Right? But again, I mean, what he pulled, he had a good strategy. So he pulled, and then I was on top, and I was playing that whole, like, I was playing the points game, even though there were no points at the very beginning, right? And then at the very end, or like once points started, then he played the points, and it just looked like, because I was playing points the whole time, I just wasn't doing shit, and I understood it, right? So after that shit ended, I was like, yo, you know what? Yo, never again. Fuck that. Like, sorry if I'm cursing a lot, but it just is what it is, man. Like, that's exactly how I felt. Like, I finished that shit, and I was like, man, fuck. Again, like a loss by a penalty or whatever. The fuck, man, this shit sucks. I'm not, fuck that, man.
That's so interesting, because it's like I had that realization when I was competing. And I remember after I kind of got away from it, like my performances increased, my submission rate increased, everything got better. And we've talked to a bunch of black belts on here and competitors who've done the same thing, where like there was a period where like you wanted to win really bad, and like you would just play whatever you were best with or whatever you felt most comfortable with. And then like the margins of like winning or losing were always so thin. But then it was like the minute where you said, like you said, fuck it, I'm just going to go out there and go after this person and try to win, but like not really worried about winning, like the end result. Then all of a sudden it's like submission rate, the way that you go out there like is way better. Cause even like your matches at like the ADCC, like they were good matches. Like, I mean, you're watching like stuff's happening. It's not like you're just like they're like sitting on top of someone laying and praying or anything like that. There's exchanges going on. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoy my matches much more. And, like, even though I think last ADCC, the East Coast, I still had a boring ass. Well, it wasn't super boring, but, like, it wasn't as exciting as my other matches when I went against Bones and he beat me. Like,
he's a tough competitor. He's a tough guy to like be exciting with, like, because I mean, if you watch a lot of his matches, and I went against him at the trials like back in 2018 and like beat him on like a ref's decision, and like when you watch him against a lot of dudes, he'll have these matches where, I mean, they're razor thin. He doesn't give a whole lot of openings, and so he's really hard to just be super like exciting against, because there's not always a ton of spots to get after, and he can tend to be reserved in a lot of spaces too, so you're not getting that exposure that then allows you to like make something happen as well.
I mean that's a really good way of putting it, and he's also strong as fuck. But
yeah, he's super strong.
but even in that match, like I knew, I kind of knew what kind of match I was heading into, and I was like, yo, you know what? Same thing. I was like, yo, you know what? I'm still gonna pull. Like, let's just see what happens, sort of thing. And then it ended up being not a lot of movement happened, but I mean, whatever. I still like that feeling that I used to have whenever I would lose those like really close matches. Like, man, fuck. If I would have done A instead of doing B, if I would have done B instead of doing whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really have that. I was like, yo, I tried a bunch of shit. I didn't get the referee decision. I didn't win or whatever. And instead of leaving, like, how would I have, gotten the referee decision?
Mm-hmm.
I left out thinking like, why did I not? Why was I not close to a submission here? You know what I mean? How many openings did I miss? Like, it was just a whole different way of thinking, which I'm thinking now, because like I'm just trying to go for the submission now instead of going for like points or advantages to referee decision.
So is that what changed for you? Kind of, in the East Coast trials, you did really well. I mean, you won what, like 4 matches, something like that, 3-4 matches, and then and then going into the West Coast trials, right? That was the big boy. There was a lot of matches, pretty big. It was like the biggest ADCC trials I think they've ever had. Yeah. So like your mindset going in, man, I think you're more like riding even though you lost, I think you were feeling pretty good about your performance kind of going into it. I think you had some confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I was confident going into the East Coast too, even though I lost.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you weren't like upset. Like you weren't like, man, I could have done. But you were kind of more like, how can I get better? I know I can do better. Like it seemed like you had a different mindset.
Yeah, 100%. I was like, okay, like let's take what I did here and then just do better, right? Like now I know, for example, like at least with that match, like I was being too guarded in the way I was approaching. And I was like, all right. Now, even in those matches, like the matches that I know are like, hey, these are like even the better guys, I still got to just say, fuck it. Like, fuck being guarded and then just go for the submission. And I mean, it'll present itself because like, luckily, like I've had the opportunity to travel a lot and train a lot in different countries and shit. And like when I'm just doing my thing and like when I'm not being guarded, because it's training, like you don't give a fuck, right? Like if I just approach it that way, I was like, maybe it'll be better. So that's exactly how I'm going to approach West Coast trials. I'm going to sit as quickly as possible, which, by the way, people think is hilarious and still hit me up to this day about the way I pull guard. But whatever, man. I'm just trying to sit. I'm not trying to, like...
They hit you up? What do you mean they hit you up?
Yeah, like, they just, like, send me messages like, yo, the way you pull guard is so funny.
What's funny about it?
Like, I don't really pull guard. I just kind of sit in place. You know what I mean? Like,
you sit down?
Yeah, I look down and put my arm down, like, hey, I'm over 30. You're not gonna sneak up into like my opponent and then like maybe miss and then land on my tailbone or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna like literally I'm gonna take a squat real quick. Like, give me a second. Give me a second. Start. So anyway, I just pop a squat and then I go. Yeah.
Do you think caught people off guard? Just like maybe they expect you to wrestle, or at this point they've seen you compete enough times they know you're gonna pull. Or you're gonna sit guard. We'll just say that.
No. Well, I don't know, man. I mean, that's a good question. I think definitely like a lot of jiu-jitsu, like social media websites or whatever. I know it caught them off guard because they made it like, whoa, this man's pulling guard and all the shit. But like, I don't know. Like I know in my quarterfinals, I think. Nope, scratch that. In the round of 16, I was going against a wrestler guy, and when I went to pull guard, like he kind of expected me to pull guard. He tried to jump in this quick guillotine, and he didn't get it. But like, I mean, he only did it because he expected me to pull guard. Like he only did that little thing, right? So I guess some of my competitors have to at least expect now that I'm going to pull guard.
And your strategy, I mean, you're just kind of going for it. Like you knew. You had a pretty good performance in East Coast trials, West Coast trials. Do you feel like you had nothing to lose? Just went after it, and that's where the best performances came out.
I don't know. I mean, I always feel like I have nothing to lose, man. To me, it's just a competition. I don't give a fuck. Like if I lose this shit, my career is not riding on it by any stretch of the imagination. I'll be just fine if I lose a match.
Yeah.
And my ego will also be just fine if I lose a match. So, yeah, I guess I don't really approach matches like stressing myself out whether I win or lose. the only thing I do stress myself out about is like I just want to do my best. You know what I mean? Like, because if you don't do your best, that's the shit that like eats you up. You know what I mean? When you're sleeping or you're trying to go to sleep and you're like, fuck, man, I can't believe I didn't do the thing that I'm really good at. Why would I not do the thing that I'm really good at? And then next thing you know, it's been like 2 hours and you're thinking about like the match that happened 6 months ago. Like, why would I not do my famous armbar? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in the gym thinks I'm so good at this armbar or whatever, and I didn't do it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, because as long as I do my best, man, I'm not really stressing.
Do you have any kind of mental prep you like to do, especially in front of like a pretty big tournament? Is there anything you like to do? Is there anything how you prepare physically or mentally? Is there anything special about what you do?
Nah. I mean, no. I love competitions, man. Like straight up. I mean, even since my first wrestling competition, because there's such a finality to right before the fucking match. Which is like, and to me, like I don't get this anywhere else other than jiu-jitsu competitions, which is like after you're done warming up to right before your match, it doesn't matter if you're tired, if you're great, if you're hungry or whatever. It doesn't matter if you train 6 months or 1 day. It is what it is. You're gonna go there with whatever you have. So like to me, it's like I can't stress over something that I can't change, and you can't change that moment. And it's like the best feeling for me is just like, hey, I'm about to go over there with what I have and just do my thing. I love that moment, man. It feels so good because like, and at least in like for example in law, like I'm going to a trial, and I'm just like, fuck, man. Oh, maybe I'll change this question real quick, right? Or something happens first day, and then you go home and you're like, oh, let me change this real quick. Maybe I can change my closing argument, and maybe I can do this. Maybe like there's always stuff like you can always keep working on. But like for me, at least, it's like right before that match, there's nothing else you can change. Literally nothing else you can change. Like you are who you are, and the good things about you are there, and the bad things about you are there, and your weaknesses are there, and your whatever, right? And yeah, I mean, it's it. It's the only moment where I feel that way.
What's your proudest moment so far? You got a victory or a match or an achievement, like as far as in the jiu-jitsu realm that you feel like you're really maybe overachieved or maybe just really just proud of?
Man, I think the West Coast trials, and I not because of like how I did it or anything like that, but I think mostly because at least the way it was being covered, it was like, hey man, our 3 top guys are competing, and all the other fucking chumps. And then I was like, bitch, what? Hold on a second, man. Like, first of all, a lot of really good motherfuckers are competing. Right. And everyone should be getting credit, not just your top boys, right? And definitely don't count me out. You know what I mean? Like, yo, what the fuck? I've won this shit before.
Yeah.
So,
it's weird how they do that, right? They fixate on like a couple people, and like you said, like you've won it before. Like, why wouldn't your name be like? Because it's like there's no other sport where you have like a returning champ or a returning winner, and just they kind of get written off and like we're focused on this guy. It's like the returning champ, like this. They always bring up the fact that there's a guy in that division that has won this before.
Yep. Well, not this time. Not just that, but like if you go on Flow Grappling's Instagram, you won't see my semifinal win on there.
Why? Do you know why?
I don't know. Shit, man. Even my brother was like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Because like while we were there, he was like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Like you're literally updating all of them, but you didn't update this one.
And that was a big win.
Who was it? Who was it against?
It was against Cruz.
Okay, yeah, and Elder was like one of the. I mean, he's one of the top guys.
It's one of the guys that it's. Could be one of those things where they're like, here's the dude that we're pushing. We don't want to. I mean, I'm not saying that that's what's going on.
Were you? Because I know they had some rankings, but some of the guys, I think not everybody was ranked. They had yeah. So were you? So at the top of the bracket, like you have like the 1 seed, and then you kind of work your way down. Where were you when the bracket started? Where were you in the mix?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. ADCC was definitely not trying me like that. Yeah, they put me at the 3rd spot.
Okay, good.
Yeah. But I was just talking more about like the way the
coverage
Jiu-Jitsu media outlets were
Yeah.
straight up, like beforehand, you didn't see shit, like not a damn thing. Even when they were like, hey, who signed up for West Coast trials for my weight class? They didn't even put my name on there, and I was like, God, oh, you know what? All right, I'm gonna do my thing.
They know now, huh?
Yeah, I love those moments, especially like, look, I'll tell you this. So when I competed at Brown Belt Gi Worlds, I can't remember his name, but he had just beaten Felipe Pena that year.
Okay.
And I swear to God, it was like the rest of us didn't fucking matter. It was his tournament, and for whatever reason, like whenever I'm faced with those moments, like when I'm just being tried, like you can't fucking believe, I'm just like, all right, now I have to win this shit. Now fuck that, like why would you just disrespect me like that? I didn't even do anything. Why were you just gonna try my life like that? So those moments. So Brown Belt Gi Worlds, I loved it because I was being completely counted out. And then West Coast Trials, same thing, because they were just like, yo, you're not gonna win this shit. So yeah.
There is something satisfying to that. When I've read several biographies and books and stuff like that on like high performers in sports and business and stuff like that. And, a lot of times like motivational guru types, they're all about positive feelings and stuff. But when you read these books about these dudes that are out there doing it, right, you see that come up over and over again where there's a hell of a drive that comes from like being counted out, being like talked down to or looked down upon, and being able to come back on the other end, win the thing, and be like, have the revenge and be like, yeah, look, like you counted me out, but I did it anyway or whatever. That's a satisfying feeling.
Extremely satisfying. And the thing is, like, if you look at my matches, most of the time, like, yeah, like I like winning and it feels good, but like I'm not overly excited. But for the semifinal one, they were 100% convinced I was not going to win that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, by the way, I faced Elder before and had the same result. But they thought it was written in stone.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got that sub, like you see it, like it's a little bit out of character for me, but I actually like celebrated right there and then because like emotion just came out of me. I was just so fucking happy, not because I beat Elder, who I think is fantastic, by the way.
Sure.
Like, straight up, shout out to him. He beat Nicky Rod in a jiu-jitsu tournament. Nicky Rod got second at ADCC already. Yeah. So Elder's a beast. And it's not that I beat him, but it was just like more like I beat all the people who were doubting me, and that feels really, really good. So.
Right. No, I get what you're saying, because obviously you guys are out there battling, and respect goes to everyone, but it's just like one of those things where, when you get counted out by people that are watching or whatever, it's fun to be able to prove people wrong.
And rub it in. I made a little video. I think
at that point, everybody's like,
you made a video?
Yeah, I had my phone. It was kind of like I'll share it with you guys after, man. It was like a funny little TikTok video.
Okay.
But I'll share it with you guys so you guys can see it.
Man, I'll tell you, at that point, like everybody's so good, and some of these guys aren't as well known. I mean, you've got a track record of winning, right? But some of these guys coming in, and everybody's good. Anybody can get caught, and people, like, sometimes it's just like they're on a roll and they feel good, and like, so I think like it's hard. It's also a lot of pressure if you're one of the guys that's supposed to win, right? You got everybody's coming after you. And I think you have kind of different pressure, from people not believing in you. You feel pressure to prove them wrong, versus you're the guy that's supposed to win. You have a pressure because everybody's coming after you because they see you at the one spot. They want to take that spot from you. So I think it's definitely everybody goes into these tournaments with a different type of kind of battles, or besides just challenging each other. I mean, you're still dealing with other stuff outside of it.
Yeah, man. I mean, first of all, your first point of like everyone is so good and like you don't really know who's gonna be like the next beast. I mean, just look at our 88 kilogram winner.
Oh gosh, that division was a mess, bro. Like all the top seeds
lost.
And I mean, I'm not saying that like J-Rod wasn't a fucking beast beforehand or anything like that, but I mean, he's a blue belt. You know what I mean? He's a blue belt and straight murked everyone. You know what I mean? So I mean, imagine like you know, if you're resting on the laurels of like, oh, I'm a fucking black belt, I'm a beast, and all this shit, and you're not thinking exactly what you just said, which is anyone could be a fucking killer, and you go and then you're like, oh, J-Rod, let me look up this scrub, right? Oh, blue belt, oh, I'm about to wreck this kid, you know what I mean? And then you go and this kid just straight fucking does whatever he wants with you. Come on, man. Yeah, that
You look good.
That tournament was stacked.
Well, the best part about him, at least for me, like watching him, was like almost every match that he had, he was in a bad spot. I think like he got outscored upon by everyone or whatever. Like it wasn't like he took control of the match and was just killing people. Like a lot of the guys got the better of him a little bit, and then he would turn it back around. And then like in some of those, like there was one match where I mean, like it was like down to the wire. He was down points, gets around and gets the guy in the choke. I mean, like it was exciting because you're like they threw everything they had at him. He survived, and then he got back around and finished it. It was fun.
And he buggy choked in the finals. Got the buggy choke.
Buggy choke. But what's fun about that too is like I don't know that who's number one thing. He got buggy choked, he got sent home, and then he used it to win the damn thing. That's pretty cool.
That's crazy.
Yep. And I mean, well, first of all, the next generation of grapplers are going to be out of this fucking world, man. Straight up. Him, Achilles Rocha, which they just had a match, by the way.
Okay.
They and Achilles just had a match, and it was fucking bomb. But both of them are like still in their teens.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, they're just, I mean, I can't speak enough of how fucking good those kids are, both of them. And I think they're like, I don't know, either 16, 18, 19, something like that. They're still in their teens. I know when I was a teen, I already told you guys my story of how I was doing when I was a teen. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Dang, they're going to be insane. Yeah.
And they're getting all this, like, he's probably used to being, training at B team. He's probably used to being flattened out, kind of getting in bad positions. So he was probably nothing new to him. He's going against that really high level competition all the time. And it's almost like he's used to it. He's also used to kind of being on the bottom, being, flattened out and being in some bad spots.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's actually probably one of the reasons why, at least in his matches, I'm sure when the guys were winning, they were probably like, all right, man, well, this is a fucking done deal. Because most of the time, like, momentum, right, affects people so hard because you're not used to, if you're the top dog, right, in training, you're not used to being in terrible positions. And then you go into competition, someone's straight working you, it's like down 7-0. Mentally, you're already checked out. You're like, fuck this match, right? I don't even know what's going on. I don't even know how to think right now. But if he's in a room full of killers, that's just like an everyday for him.
Yeah.
Why should he give a fuck, right? He's just like, all right, man, well, this is just how I do jiu-jitsu, right? So maybe a reason why he was so able to get out of it and do his thing.
Not getting discouraged.
To go back to your point too, that's kind of like a smart thing. Like, you were talking about like playing your A game when you get close to the tournament, but then when you're not, playing other positions that maybe you're not so comfortable with. I mean, that's an important thing for guys as they climb the pecking order in their gyms. You get to black belt, like obviously there's guys that can push you in whatever else, but you've got to really take it upon yourself to make yourself uncomfortable, because it can be easy to like, all right, I'm just going to play my best positions and I'll stay comfortable. Whereas, all right, I'm going to go for this and I'm going to like let this wrestler smash me in the side so I can test out this new side control escape or whatever. You have to take it upon yourself, and that's tough sometimes for people.
Extremely tough, man. Ego it'll do a lot of funny things, man, to a lot of people.
Yeah. All right, I got a different question for you. Ready? It's a different one. I was just thinking about this.
All right.
Because you basically kind of have like you're a professional jiu-jitsu athlete, and you're a lawyer, right?
Right.
So I want to know, how has being a lawyer, or has it, and maybe get unique and creative with this, how has being a lawyer helped your jiu-jitsu? It could be in different ways. Like, I can think of a few, because I'm a physical therapist. So that's my full-time gig, right?
Okay.
So I don't have as much time to train. So I know when I get in there, I got to make it count. You know what I mean? You're in the same boat. You don't have all the time in the world. You can't mess around. So when you get in there, you got to really put the work in. So that could be one way. But what about like maybe some different ways? You're good at arguing. You're good at arguing the match for the win. I don't know. I'm just being silly.
You
no,
you got the money for travel to go to the competitions you want to go to.
You can go wherever you want.
yeah, I'm definitely not having to ask for rides anymore for any
There you
competition.
go.
That's definitely a pro. But no, man. I mean, I think definitely maybe the way I'm approaching like the sport completely, because I think I'm way more analytical now than I was before, and I think being an attorney, like it forces you to think about everything very fucking carefully, like to the detail in the most boring, minute way possible. And then whenever like I go train, I'm also not letting anything escape. Like even the smallest thing, I'm just like, damn, I wonder if maybe like I said, a little bit ago, that maybe now thinking about it, like it's probably, it probably sounded a little whack, but like for me, it was like really cool. Like when I was escaping the body lock pass, right? For me, I was pushing on the neck with both hands, and now I decided to put the blade across the neck and then push like this, right? Like even those little things, I don't know if I would have paid that much attention before, but now it's like everything in my life, because I'm an attorney, I look at it through that lens. You know what I mean? But also, I mean, it's hard for me to say because I think I ended up being an attorney, which is a very, like, at least in the United States, it's a very adversarial process because of the same reason that I'm in jiu-jitsu and wrestling and grappling and I did MMA and all this stuff. I enjoy the competitive aspect to it. So I don't know. I think that came first before law. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a great answer. It's a unique way, but you do get kind of more. You look at all angles, right? You look at all angles of like even a position, and maybe when you and the other black belts get together and you guys are breaking things down, you can kind of look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah. I mean, it also helps that, like, at least in jiu-jitsu, man, and this is going to be a very broad generalization that some people might not fucking like, but I think generally the people who are better, like the higher belts, tend to be more analytical than those who are not. Like they can break things down and they can look at things differently, and also just, man, fuck it, man. I just think I think they tend to be a little smarter.
Okay.
And it is, man. Hey, fuck it if y'all hate me, man. But it's the way
So you're saying like jiu-jitsu people, like that, like higher belts tend to be a little bit smarter. Is that what you're saying?
People who do well in jiu-jitsu tend to be a little smarter.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it also happens to be that people who end up reaching a higher belt are generally the people who are better at it because they end up not quitting, right? Like a lot of times people quit because they're like, I'm not good at this shit. Fuck it, man. I'm out, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the only reason they quit. But generally speaking, I mean, if you're doing good in a certain field, you're less likely to quit in that field than those who are not doing well.
Yeah, I've said this before too. Like I've met a lot of jiu-jitsu people, and the people that have gotten good at it, right? Like when you roll with them, they tend to be like, again, it doesn't mean that they have like a PhD or anything, but you talk to them and they're an intelligent person, right? You can talk to them. They have really interesting like ideas, or they think about things in a particular way. You can have a conversation with them and not think, man, what a dumbass, right? Not usually. I'm sure there's some, but generally speaking, most of the jiu-jitsu people that I've met that have been pretty good, whose games I respected, they're typically intelligent, thoughtful people on some level.
Yeah, real quick, man. Yeah, education, and I deal with attorneys all the time who are highly educated. It definitely does not equate to high intelligence.
Correct, right.
I'm sure there's some sort of correlation, but I deal with a lot of educated motherfuckers who are the dumbest people you'll ever fucking meet. And I'm just like, how are you like well, luckily they're not on our side because I deal with them on the other side. Yeah. But I'm just like, bro, you have to be the dumbest motherfucker I've ever like heard or had to read your work. But yeah, man, the way you put it, like, regardless of education, man, like you can just tell whenever someone like who's done pretty well in jiu-jitsu, when you speak to them regarding a move, right, the way they're looking at it, the way they're breaking it down, the way they analyze every little aspect that you can just say like, yo, this is a smart guy, man, or gal. I'm not, either or. Like they're just smart individuals. Generally, again, generally speaking, I'm not saying that, there can't be a motherfucker who winds up being really good who's just straight like, hey man, the only thing
armbar.
Yeah, strength.
Armbar.
I just pulled the fuck out of it, and it's, you know what I mean. People tap. It's the craziest thing.
Works. Works.
Yeah, I had that the thing about like the sensation or the sort of act of meeting someone who is who's a highly educated person who at the same time isn't quite what you'd consider like an intelligent person. Like they know their thing and they were able to get like, their degree or whatever, but then you meet them and they might even be in like a position which, like lawyers, right? Like you guys are in a place in society which just tend to be thought of as kind of like higher up. Like you think of like doctors and lawyers and all those things in the same breath. And then like I've met some that are like, again, like you said, like, man, you're like what's going on up there? Is that
a lot.
Are the lights on? But again, it is what it is. You develop a specialized skill, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a thinker. It just means that you were able to develop a skill and, do your chores and pass your classes.
Yep.
All day. Yep.
Yeah. Paul, man. So thanks for being on the podcast. If people want to get a hold of you or kind of see what you're up to, where can they do that? What social media can they follow you at?
Yeah, I mostly use Instagram, PARDILA1, and then just shoot me a message, and then on the weekends I generally check messages. And then,
well, bro, thank you for being on the podcast with us.
Of course, man. Yeah, it was cool, man.
Appreciate you. Yeah.
All right, guys. So hope you enjoyed that podcast. Hopefully you got something out of it. It's a fun conversation. Hopefully your ears weren't too sensitive. Cuss words don't really bother me. And I think, what's interesting? There's a really cool book, if you guys have not read it. It's by a guy named John McWhorter. It's called, what is it called? 9 Bad Words, something like that.
What's the other book? He's written a couple. I've read one of his books.
John McWhorter?
Yeah, John.
Yeah, I like his stuff. Of course, I can't find it right now. But it's called, I think, 9 Nasty Words or something like that. But he goes through and talks about like the cuss words that we use in English language, in America. And then he starts to go into like the new cuss words. And it's interesting because the new cuss words, like the words that are really, really taboo. Because at like one point back in the day, I mean, if you dropped an F-bomb, it was a big deal, right? Like you couldn't say it on TV or anything like that. And like in media, now it's very common to hear people say it, and then now the cuss words that we would consider curse words, or the words that are taboo have changed to slurs, right? Like, so if I say the F word, like me personally, like I feel more comfortable saying the word fuck than I would say using a derogatory term that we'd use for someone that's homosexual.
Yeah.
But it's still the F word, right? I don't feel comfortable even saying that.
Well, I don't know. Like, I think it's...
But back in the day when we were kids, we used that word all the time. We didn't even know what it meant. We just said it.
We did.
Yeah.
Well, the things change. Like, it just makes you think of the George Carlin skit about like the F word, like the many uses of the F word.
Yeah.
It can be like an adjective, an adverb, a noun, like all this stuff. It's hilarious. So I remember showing it to my wife, and we just were rolling the whole time. It just shows you like the versatility of the F word, right? But it just kind of makes light of some of these things that like I think a lot of it, words do carry meaning, but like somebody says F word, I mean, whatever.
I think words carry meaning, but I also think the most important part of it is like the intention.
Intention, yes,
because
that's probably correct.
Because like you could read a transcript of some of the stuff that like is said with me and people that are close to us, and whatever in conversation. And if you just read the transcript without the tonality of it, you would like think, oh my God, like what is going on here? Then you actually hear, oh, okay, they're goofing.
Well, yeah, it's about like the whole body of work. I think you saw a lot of that. I think with Joe Rogan stuff that was going on with him using, the words he used. And like, I think when you just see it in that small window, it's kind of like, oh, that doesn't sound very good. Yeah. And he's even said, like he said, everybody says stupid things a lot. And if you talk for as many hours as he has, you're going to say stupid stuff. However, it's about the body of work. And like, if you've someone that's watched him for years or listened to his podcast for years, you kind of get an idea on the type of person he is. Right. And, so it's just, like the intention and that's probably the key, the most important thing.
Sure. Well, and also, you have to like judge with like words and stuff like that with things that are recorded now. you also have to take into effect that like that person said that at that time, and
Sure,
at that time
sure.
that was considered okay, and then now it's not, right? Like it changed, like
Correct.
because you go back like, I mean, you go back like 50 years ago, and there's words being used and terms for people that were completely acceptable,
Sure.
that we wouldn't use now.
Well, it's normal. Yeah, it's a normal part of speech, really. But then, yeah, I love that show, The Office. You know, and I've probably mentioned this before. And they talk about he made different jokes or said different slurs, maybe or words, and like now he's like, you could never make those jokes again. You could never say those things in the ways that he did, because people want him to redo The Office. And he's like, it wouldn't be the same, right? It wouldn't have the same feel, the same kind of. I don't know if I agree or disagree with that. However, it's just things like you watch shows from 10, 20 years ago, and you're like, God, that probably wouldn't fly today.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, you know, because we grew up in the 90s and in the early 2000s. And I remember like growing up at that time, and like when you make fun of stuff, you get to make light of stuff. You know, like for instance, like, you know, Dave Chappelle's a great example with the Dave Chappelle show, right?
Yeah.
Like you were literally like, you were using like racist jokes to make fun of racism.
Yeah.
Because you're making fun of it.
You show how ridiculous
how stupid
it
it is, right? It's like, it's dumb. Like it's dumb to make a judgment call on someone based upon this, on the way that their skin reacts to UV light.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's a really dumb thing to do.
It's
right?
pretty. Yeah. You think about it, it's just like, it's pretty ridiculous.
If
you step back and think about it, you're like, this makes no sense.
I mean, if I cut you open, we bleed the same blood. Yeah. You know, like no matter what, we're going to bleed the same blood.
Yep.
If we get in there, we got the same organs going on. But for some reason, this one little trait, we've got some slightly different facial features and hair. And then otherwise, our big defining difference is like my skin, when UV light hits it, it does this, and then yours does that. That's what we're going to make a big difference. It's silly. And obviously it's like this primitive thing that, you know, is in us, you know, but it's just, it's silliness.
Yep.
But I think that like being able to make light of it and make fun of it allowed for people to laugh about it. And then it was like, oh, okay. Like to me, it made it more silly. You know?
It just showed how ridiculous it was.
Right. Like, you know, because again, like it wasn't off the table. I think that it's like almost like, what is that? Harry Potter with like Voldemort. You know, he couldn't say his name.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like when you can't speak something, it gains power. It gets more power when it's spoken. It's like, it's just this thing. It doesn't have like, just like the word F, like the word like fuck. Some point when you couldn't say, there was power to it. Now it's like, you know.
Just listen to George Carlin. He'll set you straight.
Yeah. Well, anyway, guys, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And again, that forgot how we got on that rant, but like Paul was talking about, like, he goes, sorry I go on tangents. I'm like, no, bro, you're in good company.
We love tangents.
That's what I do.
That's kind of the special. That's why, like, I think that's the special thing about podcasts. We're going on another tangent, but that's the special thing about podcasts is because we get to find out who this person is and like really get some like details. You kind of get into some stuff, get into some stories, some things that kind of are meaningful, and and maybe get some ideas and perspectives that maybe you would never get in a 10-minute interview, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's it's almost like you get to sit in on people having a conversation, like actual conversation between buddies, and you get to I guess get to know them a little better. And I hope that through the podcast, Paul gets a little more, I think he deserves a little more notoriety. And he's a talented guy that's done a lot of stuff that, won Brown Belt Worlds, which is a big deal. And now he's won ADCC trials multiple times. Yep. That's huge. It is. And I think it's just one of those things where he's kind of like, he falls into that JT Torres category where like JT is one of the best grapplers on the planet. By far. He's amazing. He's won the ADCC multiple times. But he's just kind of a reserved guy to himself, and he doesn't go all crazy on the internet or something like that. And it is what it is. So, but he's not a guy that like are people like calling him out, like saying. I don't think I've ever heard anything bad ever said about him. No, he's a great dude. Yeah, he's awesome. We had him on the podcast. It was like what a nice guy, like one of the nicest dudes. Yeah, and he's like every time I've been around him, he was like that all the time. It's not like all right, let me put on a show. It's like that's the. He dude. Was great, man. I really and just a hell of a grappler too, man. Yep. Just yeah, you got guys like that. I think they deserve more attention. They may not have like this big, boisterous kind of like, man, they're just really good grapplers. They do and so those are the guys. And so those are the guys like like we talked about this before. People like will say that they don't like the trash talk and all that stuff that goes in sport jiu-jitsu. Yeah. But the reason why people do it is because that's what people
actually respond to, sadly. It's not everybody.
Not everybody, right?
Like I don't like I typically, if you do that, I unfollow you. I don't want to, or I'll mute you at the least. I don't want to follow it. To me, like I follow grapplers that grapple, and I like watching guys with really cool styles that I enjoy watching. I could care less if you talk trash, but a lot of people, it gets them attention.
It does raise the stakes. I mean, because then you're like, ooh, how is this person going to react to it? It raises the stakes.
It's a squeaky wheel thing.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here today on us on the podcast. Again, if you guys are interested, check out our sponsors, charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Jujitsu20 for 20% off the order. Again, I really like the product. The reason why they are a sponsor of the podcast is because we've used their products. We like them. We continue to use them. And I feel safe sharing them with you, just like I do with my students, right? So it's not one of those things where everything that we have as far as sponsor-wise, we have some attachment to, or we enjoy, and that's why it becomes a thing. It's like, for me as a coach, again, I'm not just this asshole on the internet that like talks to people or does videos. Like I have a student base of hundreds of people that I feel, very protective of, and don't share crap with them. I only want to share good stuff because, again, I'm very protective of that. From a brand standpoint, if you want to think about it from a brand standpoint, I don't want you guys to ever associate me with junk. So I want you to be like, if you get something from me, I want you to be like, man, Chewy, he promotes good stuff. And with that said, I think they're one of the premier CBD companies out there. They were one of the first that I ever heard of, and they do a really good job of pushing the bar and trying to push for regulation. So this way that, the bar will be raised for everyone, and they're kind of doing this because they know they're in a good spot to be able to do that, because they already do everything that would be necessary in order for them to be like an FDA approved company, that kind of thing. But anyway, if you want to check their stuff out, try CBD for yourself and see what it does for you. I encourage you to try it out for a month, see the effect that it has, and then make your decision from there. You can check it out again. It's charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Jujitsu20 for 20% off the order. Also, thanks to Epic Roll for helping us bring this podcast to you. If you'd like to get a new gi, rash guard, t-shirt, or some really cool MMA shorts that don't have Velcro on them that are incredibly comfortable, I know I talk about them a lot, you can check them out at epicrollbjj.com. The promo code is Jujitsu for 15% off the order. Again, I like Matt's designs. I like the quality of the stuff. And again, I wear his stuff. If you watch any of my videos in no-gi, besides We Defy, I really like their Mission 2, really cool company, no affiliation with them, but I really like the rash guards, really like the company. Otherwise, I'm pretty much always wearing Epic Roll stuff. So that's my no-gi stuff. I wear Epic Roll and I wear We Defy rash guards. And also thanks to Manscaped for helping us bring this podcast to you. If you are a man or know a man that wants some grooming products, whether it be trimmers for your beard, your balls, your nose, your ears, whatever. I guess you could probably use that for your little weed whacker.
Yeah, I think so.
I guess, but I guess
I'm not there yet.
I'm not there
just
yet.
Pluck my hair
when we were at Jess's grandmother's. Some of the family's old, and like there's one of the older guys named John, who's, I think he's up in his late 80s, maybe early 90s. He's got those like old man ears, like with the ear, like the ear hair poking out.
Oh man,
I'm like, I just want to go in there with that weed whacker and just like trim it up, just because I'm not there yet. I've got the ear fuzz on the side.
I do.
Do you get the fuzzy ears?
Yeah,
dude. Sometimes I'll get like the
long ones.
Oh my god, it's so weird. Like I'll be there and there'll be like it'll be like a 2 to 3 inch hair hanging off the side of my ear. It's the strangest thing.
It's so glorious.
I'm like, why can't more of it just stay up here in my head?
You're fine, Chewy.
I'm fine now, but it's tough falling out, bro. I guarantee you guys, like right now I'm getting older, my hair's starting to thin a little bit. It's falling out. I see it in my brush or when I wash my hair and stuff. You're gonna see like in a couple of years, like this beautiful coif of hair is going to be gone.
What word did you just use?
Coif, not coif, coif. Beautiful coif of hair. Coif, excuse me. Beautiful coif of hair.
I was like, what was that word? I don't know that word.
I said coif. Coif's like a little thing you use like chainmail or something. But
I thought you said something else.
No.
A different type of sound that's made by...
Yeah, not that, buddy. Not that. But again, regardless of what you need to trim or any of that stuff, if you want some really badass grooming products for a man, designed for a man, you can go to manscaped.com and use promo code Jujitsu20 to save 20% and get free shipping on the order.
Get it.
It's a good price, good product. And again, if you guys want to join the Patreon, you can do so by going to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Today's episode from Paul, we took a little nugget about his training process of how he tries to develop new techniques and how he trains for competitions and things like that. But then we also get an idea of how he trains with a group of friends of his to really fine tune certain specific parts of his game. And that's available to you if you join the Patreon. So if you're already a Patreon member, you can go there and get that now. If you're not, then you can join up and get access to that. And if you guys would like access to my Jiu-Jitsu email list, which is called the Chew Crew, you can do so by going to jujitsu.net/join. And by doing so, you'll get access to 3 free Jiu-Jitsu ebooks that'll help you out with your game, with game planning, drilling, and with some at-home study and drilling options. And then along with that, you get first crack at everything that I do. And right now, at the time of recording this, I don't know when you're listening to this, but at the time of recording this and at the time of releasing this, we're going to be doing a Jujitsu Camp. So I just sold the first round of it. Like I sent it out. It sold out in 2 hours. So we sold 20 spots. And then I'm going to do another one because I want to try to open it up to more people because, again, I don't want to make it too big because to me, the whole point about doing these camps is to be a little bit more intimate. So this way I get to meet people, like I get to know their names and remember them rather than being like this big, giant mess of people where, I don't get to actually talk to anybody. And again, if you've listened to the podcast or watched my videos, I imagine if you came to the camp, you might want to at least get a few minutes of chat. I mean, I would want to, some like the guys that like I follow, like I would, or, jiu-jitsu and things like that. I would want to, if I'm going to go to something, I'd like a chance to be able to talk to them, or at least I would enjoy the chance to talk to them if I could. And so again, it's a cool chance where it'll be a cool, small, intimate setting. You'll get to train with me, my students at the gym. We'll have a few training sessions over the course of 3 days. We'll also have a cookout typically on Saturday. And then we typically do something at my house as well. So you actually get to hang out with me at my house and, do a little training, have a little cookout. Heck, people were really down there looking at my bookshelves and stuff last year.
Yeah.
So yeah. So whatever. So if you guys want to get access to that, the Chew Crew email list is the people that get first crack at it. It might end up somewhere else. I don't know. I doubt it. But again, if you want to get access to all that stuff, you can do so by going to jujitsu.net/join, JOIN. And with this really long outro, this is going to be a long podcast today. I really appreciate you guys for joining us. I hope you're doing well, and we'll talk to you next time.